Hi guys, welcome back to LaDensercrotchets. If you're new to this channel, my name is Liz, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much for watching the videos. Thank you for commenting, liking, and sharing the tutorials. In this video, we're going to be making this top. It's a one sleeve top, and it has a meshy detailed sleeve that is puffed. Stick around to the end of this tutorial because I know you're going to enjoy watching it and you're going to love the recreation that you're going to make from this tutorial. I rarely do sketches of my work, but for this particular one, it was so difficult to know how to explain to you guys or you're supposed to work this top, and that's why I went with a sketch. I know it's not a perfect sketch, but we're going to work with it. The reason why I made this sketch is because I did not just want to give an explanation or a tutorial of how to work the top in my size. I wanted that everybody is able to do the skirt in their own size. So you're going to get the measurement of your bust, and mine, the one that I'm going to be working with, is 36. And this top is worked in two panels. There is a front panel and a back panel, and they are completely identical. So we have this one at the front and another one at the back. That's why we are dividing the bust measurement by 2. From experience, I've noticed that 10 rows usually give me 4 inches when stretched, and that is when I'm working on with a 4mm crochet hook. So place emphasis on the hook. If you use any other size of a hook, you might not get the exact thing that I'm explaining right here. So use the 4mm crochet hook. If you use any other size of a hook, you'll need to work out something different from what I'm doing right now. So the 10 rows usually give me 4 inches, and because I have 18 inches that I want to work for the front panel, I want to know how many rows I'll need to work in order to get to 18 inches. And that's why I have 18 divided by 4 multiplied by 10, which gives me 45. So for the front panel, you're going to have 45 rows. For the back panel, you're also going to have 45 rows. Then you're going to take the rows that you've gotten here and divide them by 4. After dividing this by 4, I've gotten 11.15 and rounded it to the nearest whole number, which is 11 rows. So 11 rows is going to represent my first panel. See, I've sectioned this into 4, the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. So in this first one, we're going to have 11 rows. Then the second one will be the 11 that you got right here multiplied by 2. That is 22 rows. So 22 rows will be for the second part of the top, or the second panel. Then for the third one, you're going to take the 11 that you have for the first plus the 22 for the second. You're going to get 33. Then you'll take the 45 rows, which was the total number of rows that you need to do, and you're going to subtract this 33, which gives me 12. Then now to work the third panel, you're going to take 12 minus 5, and that gives you 7. So 7 rows will be in the third panel right here. Then the fourth panel will be the 5 rows that you've subtracted here. I know it's a lot of math, but it's simple, and you're going to, if you just take your time, you're going to be able to know what you need to work for your bust. So for instance, if you're working 40 inches, if your bust is 40 inches, you're taking 40 divided by 2, and this gives you 20 inches. And we already know that 10 rows give 4 inches. So you need to know the 20 inches that you're working, you'll need how many rows. And that will be 20 divided by 4 multiplied by 10. And this will be 50. You're going to need 50 rows if you're working a bust of 40 inches. Then the 50 rows, you're going to divide it by 4. And this will be 12.5, and you can round this off to 13. So that means your first panel is going to be 13 rows. So this one right here should be 13. And then the second one, the second will be 13 multiplied by 2, which gives you 26. So the second one is right here will be 26 rows. For the third, to get the third, you need to take first the first and the second, that is 13 plus 26, and this will get you to 39. Then the total number was 50, so you're going to take 50 minus 39, and this is going to be around 11. Yeah, 11. 11 is the remaining number of rows, so you're going to take your fourth panel to be 11 minus 5, and this will be 6. This is the third, sorry, the third. So the third will be 11 minus 6, 11 minus 5, which is 6. And finally, the fourth is going to be 5. So you're going to work 13, 26, 6, and 5. If you add these, it should total to 50. I'm going to be using a medium weight yarn and the 4mm crochet hook. So this right here is the starting point. From this point to this point right here, that will be our foundation chain. Somebody decided to put ticks all over my work, but we're going to work with it like that. It's not ruined. So get your measurement of the length from your waist up to the armpits, allowing for like 2 inches of the edging, because this is part of the edging and we're going to do this at the end. And the chain that you're going to make should be a multiple of 2 or an even number. I'll start with a slip knot, and then I'll make a chain of 36. I have my 36 chains, so I'm going to begin my row 1, and to begin row 1 I'm going to chain 1 more while holding the 36 chain, then go back into that chain with a single crochet, and then into the next chain we're going to place a double crochet. The next chain gets a single crochet, the other one gets a double crochet, so we are alternating between a single crochet and a double crochet. If you've watched my previous videos, then you'll notice that I use this stitch a lot, and it's because it has such a nice texture and I love it. I love it so much. So alternate between a single crochet and a double crochet until you get to the end of row 1. At the end of row 1, I'll have a total of 36 stitches, and my last stitch should be a double crochet. Make sure that your last stitch is a double crochet. If you chained the right number or an even number of rows, then you should end with a double crochet. I'm in the last stitch, and in that stitch I'm going to place a double crochet right there, and that is our first row done. So in my work right here, at this part, the first panel, we have sorry about that. So we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 panels. We're beginning the first panel, and for the first one, because my measurement is 36, I'm working with the 11 rows. So I'm going to work a total of 11 rows without increasing at all. So 11 rows with 36 stitches each. So at the end of row 1, to begin row 2, chain 1 and turn. At the beginning, where there was a double crochet, you're going to place a single crochet in that first stitch. The next stitch will get a double crochet. So now you're alternating. Where there was a double crochet, there's going to be a single crochet. Where there was a single crochet, there's going to be a double crochet. And that is on top of the single crochet, place a double crochet. On top of the double crochet, place a single crochet. On top of the single, double, and then single crochet, double all the way to the end. At the end of each row, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and continue repeating row 2 till you get the total number of rows that works for your measurements. In my case, I'll work like this until I get 11 rows. I'm at the end of row 2, and right there in the last stitch, make sure that you place your last double crochet. If you have a problem keeping up with the stitches, make sure that you count your stitches so that you don't increase or decrease in places where you're not supposed to. Make sure that your edges are straight. So chain 1 and turn to begin row 3, and the first stitch of row 3 is a single crochet followed by a double crochet followed by a single crochet, then a double, and keep going. I'll meet you once I'm done with my 11 rows. My 11 rows are done. This is what I have right now, and at this point we are done with the first panel. So now we want to go up with the second, and as you can see, this is going to be an increase. We're going to be increasing in this part while this part remains straight. So in row 12 you're going to chain 1 and turn, and we begin with an increase. To work the increase, you place a single crochet into the first stitch, then a double crochet into the same stitch, and finally a single crochet into the same stitch. So the first stitch gets 3 stitches, a single crochet, a double crochet, and another single crochet, and that's our first increase. Then we move on to the next stitch, which is going to be a double crochet right here where there was a single crochet. Then next we're going to have a single crochet followed by a double crochet, and just alternate to the end of row 12. So the only part that is changing is this first part. The other parts remain the same. And once you get to the end of row 12, you're going to chain 1 and work row 13 up to the end without increasing. So we don't increase in row 13, we increase in 12, we don't increase in 13. The next one we're going to increase. So I'll meet you once when I'm coming back to the end of my row 13 at around this point to show you how to end row 13. I'm coming to the end of row 13, and I have a double crochet here. So on top of the double crochet I place a single crochet. I'm in the last stitch where we had the 3 stitches. So in the first one I'll place a double crochet. The next one right here will get a single crochet, and the last one, which is at the end right here, will get a double crochet. So you're ending with double crochet right there. So row 13 is done. There is not going to be an increase in that row. So chain 1 and turn. We begin row 14, and row 14 begins with an increase. Your row number could be different from mine, so do not get confused with the rows. Just work with your rows. So the first stitch gets a single crochet. In the same stitch, place a double crochet. In the same stitch, place a single crochet. Then now we're going to move on to the next stitch where we place a double crochet and a single crochet next, then a double crochet and a single crochet, and we alternate to the end of the row. Remember, we are only increasing at the beginning on this side remains flat, and I'm going to work these increases until I have my 22 rows. Remember that I mentioned that in the second panel we're supposed to have 22 rows, these ones right here. So I'll increase from row 12 till I get to 12, that was 11 plus 22, till I get to my 33 rows. So I'll keep increasing in alternate rows. Remember, when we increase in this row, the next one we don't increase, we increase in the next. So keep going till you get your rows at that part of the increase. I'll work my 22 and then come back so that we can continue. I'm done with my 22 rows at this point of increase, and right now I'm in row 33 and done with the second panel. We are not going to work that panel, which is flat on top and flat at the bottom. So from row 33 up to row 40, I'm going to work without increasing at all. Determine the row that you're in, you know the number of rows that you've calculated, and then work that number of rows for this third part of the top. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn to begin row 34. Then I'll just work 1 single crochet into that first stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, a single crochet into the next, and a double into the next. So I'm just going to work the 7 rows without an increase or a decrease at all. So just normal rows like the ones we started with right here. I'm done with the 7 rows that are getting me to the 40th row, and I'm ending at the bottom of the top. So if you work the third panel and you end on top right here, you'll need to work an extra row so that you come back to this bottom part, because the next row that we're going to work, we won't work it up to the top, we're going to work it up to somewhere here. Alternatively, you can cut off the yarn from this point if you've ended at the top part of the top, and then reattach at this point. But adding an extra row to your work won't make much difference, so just work a row down till you get to this bottom part. Make sure you're working the next row from the bottom part, or we begin the 4th panel from this bottom part of the top. And so I'm going to chain 1. So I'm going to work a total of 36 stitches till I get here, and then I'll work 5 rows without increasing. So the first row will be the one that gets me to the 36 mark. Then I'll work 4 more rows for a total of 5, and that will get me to 45 rows. I've already chained 1, so I'll turn and begin from the first stitch with a single crochet. That is 1. I'll count my stitches up to 36. So after the 36 stitches, I'm going to chain 1 and turn to begin row 42. And row 42 is going to have 36 stitches. Then I'll also work row 43 up to row 45. So go on, work your number of rows for the 4th panel. Then let's meet once you're done. Once you're done with this 4th panel, you'll be done with the front part of the top. And then we're going to move on to the back panel, or the back part of the top. I just did 5 rows right here, and the front panel is done. The front part of the top is done. Now we need to work the back part of the top, and the back part is a mirror reflection of the front. So that means we worked 11, 22, 7, then 5. We're going to work backwards. Right here, we have the 11, the 22, the 7, and the 5. So when we get to this point, we want to work backwards so that we end back to where we started. So we're going to work 5, 7, 22, then finally 11. Let me begin with the 5. So I'm going to add 5 more rows right here so that I get to 10 rows. And that will get me to a total of 50 rows. So at this point, I chain 1 and work 5 more rows that are ending at this point. Do the same for your number of rows that you have in that last part of the front piece. So now this is a row that begins as on the back part of the top, or on the back panel of the top. My 5 rows end right here at the bottom, and this folds like this. Now we are moving backwards as I mentioned earlier, so it should fold like that. So now if you ended your row at this point, you're just going to chain the number of stitches that you had on this part, and they should be equals to the number of rows that you did here. So my rows were 22, so the number of stitches that I have here are 22. What I'm going to do is I'll chain 1 and turn, then I'll work till I get to this point, and once I get here, I'll make a chain of 22. So make a chain that is equivalent to the increased number of rows, or the increased rows that you had here. If you had 30, you're going to chain 30 once you get here. So let me get to that point first. After working to this point, now it's time to chain my 22 chains. So I'll have 1, 2, so that gets me back to the top right there. And then now I'm going to hold that last stitch and chain one more, then go into that stitch that I'm holding with a single crochet, alternate with a double crochet, then a single crochet, a double. So just the same way we've been doing. And this is the first row of the 7 rows that we work right here. So I'm on the last stitch of the chain and I'm working a double crochet. So now into this stitch it's going to be a single crochet, then the next one is going to be a double crochet, a single crochet, then a double, all the way down to the bottom. Then work the other 6 rows. You know the number of rows that you worked right here on this flat part, so work that many number of rows. And then once you're done, we're going to start reducing on this part so that we go back to this point. I've worked my 7 rows and the 7 rows ended at the bottom of the top, but I wanted to start working the reduction at this top part, so I worked an extra row for a total of 8. And if you end at this point with your rows, then that's okay. So then I chained 1 and turned. Then we're going to start the reduction. So to work the reduction, we skip the first stitch, skip the second, and work a single crochet into the 3rd stitch. And that's the first reduction. Then we're going to work normally. The next stitch will be a double crochet, the next one will be a single, and the next one will be a double crochet. And I'm going to work a reduction until I have 21 rows from this point, 22 actually, until I have 22. So this is the first row. I'm going to work 22 rows of reduction, but then I'll be reducing in alternate rows. The same way we did with the increase, we were increasing in one row, skipping the next, then increasing in the next. So I've reduced in this first one, the next one there'll be no reduction. So let me do that and show you how to work the next row. I'm at the end of that row and I've marked that particular row just so I can know where my 22 stitches, my 22 rows begin. So I'm going to count 22 from this point. Now at the end, chain 1 and turn, and now this row that moves from the bottom up is a row of no decrease at all. So just 1 stitch into every stitch while alternating between the double crochets and the single crochets. The last stitch should always be a double crochet, so keep that in mind. I'm coming to the end of this row that has no reduction, so I have that single crochet and finally the double crochet into the last stitch right there, then chain 1 and turn. Then again we reduce, skip 1, skip 2, work a single crochet into the 3rd stitch, and this is my 3rd row of reduction, or of the reduction part. It's actually the 2nd row of reduction, but the 3rd in that part of the reduction. So then after reducing, I'll just work the alternate double crochets and single crochets to the end of the row. When I get to the end, I'll chain 1 and turn, then work 1 stitch into every stitch till I get back to this point without reducing. I'm coming to the end of the 4th row of the reduction part, but now this 4th row ends with no reduction, and I place my last double crochet right there, chain 1 and turn, and now I'm going to reduce in row 5. So in this particular part of reduction, we are reducing in the odd rows and working with no decrease in the even rows. So we're reducing in row 1, 3, 5 up to row 21. Then row 2 up to row 22, no increase or decrease at all. So skip 1, 2 into the 3rd, single crochet, then start with the double crochet, alternate to the end, Then work back row 6 with no reduction, and I'll keep doing this, reducing at this top part and then no reduction in the next row until I get my 22 rows. Work till you get your desired number of rows, and then we're going to continue to the last part once you're done with the reduction part. I'm done doing the 22 rows reduction, and I'm at this point now, and I've gone back to my starting number of chains, which were 36. Therefore I need to work the last part right here with a total of 11 rows, and then after that I'll be done with the back panel of this top. So as you can see, we have 2 identical pieces. If working backwards is a problem for you, you can make 2 identical pieces like the one that I made. You can make one and then another one and then join them on both sides. But if you've understood this, then the better. So right here I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I've already chained 1, so I'll just work the first, chain 1, then work the first single crochet with no reduction this time round. So I'll have 11 rows right here with 36 stitches each. And then once I'm done with the 11 rows, I'll be done with the main part of the top. So then I'll show you how to join the 2 sides together. Remember, if you're having trouble working backwards, just work 2 pieces separately and then join them. That will also work. The 11 rows are done, and now it's time to connect these 2 sides together, and I'm going to do that using single crochet. So I'll just turn my work like this, pull out this hook, put it through the first stitch on the other side and through to the other side, then grab the loop and pull it through. So I'll just pull it through and chain 1. So now I'm going to be joining the corresponding stitches on each side with a single crochet. So the second stitch with the second stitch, the third with the third, the fourth stitch with the fourth on the other side, then the fifth, and I'm going to join with 1 single crochet into each of the corresponding stitches till I get to this top part right here. Just make sure that your stitches are well aligned as usual. If you're doing the 10 stitch on this side, you should be joined with the 10 stitch on the other side. I've joined all the way to the top, so I'm going to chain 1 and cut off the yarn at that point. Pull through and fasten. So that side is joined. We also need to join this top part. Connect these 2, and you're just going to align your work well. Put the hook through, grab the yarn, pull it through, chain 1, then work single crochets. Make sure that the 2 sides are well aligned. You can join this part using a darning needle. If you're not okay joining with single crochets, it won't make a difference. A darning needle or the hook is quite okay. On the last part, chain 1 and cut off the yarn, pull through, fasten. So we are done with connecting our top, so turn it to the right side. And this right here is what we have. So now I need to do an edging at the bottom and another edging here on top. Then after that, I'll be able to do the sleeve. So I'll start with the edging on the top part right here. I'll attach my yarn at this point. Put the hook at this corner under the armpit, then pull a loop from the yarn. Chain 1. Then go back into that stitch right there and put a single crochet. And I'll be working over these tails just to hide them inside the stitches and avoid weaving, having so many tails to weave in. So after this stitch, I'll skip this part, this stitch right here, skip it. Then into this stitch that, this was a single crochet row. So skip the single crochet row, go into the double crochet row and place 2 single crochets there. Then we have this stitch. Just watch what I'm doing. I'm skipping some of the stitches. So 2 double crochets, skip 1, 1, 2, and 3. So I've worked 3, then I'll skip the 4th one. Then I'll work 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll skip this part and move on to the next part and do 3 single crochets, consecutive single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Skip this part, move on to this, do 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. Then I'll skip these, go into the next gap. So I'm working on the gaps on the top, 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll skip the next gap, go into the next one, 1, then into the next, 2, and 3. Then skip this, then 1, 2, and 3. Skip this one, move on to this one, 1, 2, and 3. So I'll be working 3 single crochets into 3 consecutive gaps, then I'll skip the 4th one. So I just worked into this gap, so I'll skip this one, work a single crochet into that gap, into the next, and into the next. Then I'll skip this one, move into the next one, 1, then 2, then 3. Skip this, go into the next, 1, 2, and 3. Then skip the next, move on to the next one, like that. And I'll go all the way around this part until I come back to where I reattach the yarn. So just keep going with 3 single crochets into 3 consecutive gaps. Then you skip one, then work 1, 2, and 3, then skip the next one. And you'll be done with that edging at the top part of the top. At the corner right here, I'll place a single crochet next to the corner. And so that will be 1, 2, and 3. Skip 1, 2, 3. Skip this one for 1, 2, 3. We skip this part, then 1, 2, and 3. So at the end, I'll slip stitch on top of the first single crochet that I made, chain 1, and cut the yarn. So we're done with this curve on top of the top. Now it's time to do the edging at the bottom part of the top, and again I'll reattach where I joined at this point. So I'll grab my yarn, start with a slip knot, then get this corner at the bottom and reattach the yarn with a slip stitch, chain 1, then you go back into that stitch with a single crochet. Then into the next gap we're going to skip and do a single crochet onto the next, then skip this one, a single crochet onto the next one, skip, single crochet. skip a single crochet into the next. So we're going to skip a gap and work a single crochet into the next gap all the way around till we come back to this part. Skip one, work on the next one. At the end, slip stitch onto the first single crochet, chain 3. Oh, we had already chained one, so I chain in 2 more and turn. Then we're going to work a double crochet into every stitch that we've worked all the way around. 1 double crochet into every stitch. I'm at the end, so slip stitch on top of the chain 3 of the first, on top of the first chain 3, which was our first double crochet, to complete that row. Then chain 2 and turn. The chain 2 is going to be acting like our turning chain. Now we're not going to chain anymore, so I'm chaining 2, and then I'll be doing front posts and back posts. So yarn over, go into, I'll not go into this stitch that is on top of the chain 2, but onto the next and do a front post double crochet. Then yarn over, go into the next one with a back post double crochet. The next one will get a front post followed by a back post double crochet, then a front post double crochet and a back post double crochet. And I'm going to do alternate front post and back posts till I get back to the starting point right here. At the end, it's going to be a back post, and then yours could be a front post. It doesn't matter what you end with. Then slip stitch on onto the chain 2 stitch that you made at the beginning. Then chain 2 again. This time round we are not turning. We're just going to continue going round. So into the first back post, place another back post. This was a front post, sorry. Into the front post, I've placed another front post. Into the back post, do a back post. So where there was a front post, there's going to be another front post. Where there was a back post, to do another back post. And I'm going to do 2 more rows. You can do as many rows as you want, depending on the length of the edging that you want. So the total of my double crochet rows will be 4. You can do 5, 6, or even 7, but don't do too many. Mine will be a total of 4. Double crochet rows. After the edging, this is what I have, and at this point the top is ready to be worn. You can weave in the tails and wear it like that. So I was supposed to do the sleeves, but I feel like if I continue doing the sleeves on this video, it's going to be too long, and therefore we'll just call this part 1 of the top, and then I'll come back in the next video and show you how to do the sleeve, which is going to be part 2 of the top. So if you want to get notified when I upload the tutorial for the sleeve part of the top, kindly hit the notification bell. If you're not subscribed, kindly subscribe, and see you in the next video.